Welcome to America's Horse on America's Trail with the Mustang Discovery Ride. I'm your host, Julianne Neal. Over the next 12 months, we'll be following tip trainers Hannah Catalino and Lisanne Fear, along with Aveline, Bagheera, Chili, Cody, Finn, and Rosette, and of course, Fyra and Caillou, as they cross the American Discovery Trail on a quest to bring attention to the plight of America's Mustangs. With a goal of 5,000 miles, 5,000 Mustangs, the Mustang Discovery Ride team hopes to bring attention to adoption into appropriate homes for these living legends. We hope that you'll join Hannah and Lisanne on this journey of a lifetime by following the Mustang Discovery Ride podcast. Enjoy the ride. In this episode of the podcast, we'll catch up with Hannah and Lisanne on the road. They're taking a break to pick up the support vehicle truck and trailer rig sponsored by BLK Water. We'll hear about some exciting times on the American Discovery Trail. Stay tuned for episode 3.
Yay! I get to actually really see y'all this time, it looks like.
Yeah. I didn't get any makeup on today, but
okay. Well, so good to see y'all. It feels like it's been like 2 months or 3 months or something since I saw you last, and it's probably like 2 weeks. So, how's everything going?
Things are going good. Yeah, we're planning on taking the C&O Canal for about 100 miles, pretty much all the way up until we get to like Potomac University or just above it, and then we'll drop off of it. So, we're excited to see what kind of the canal trail has for us and what we're gonna do there. So.
Yay. Well, is that part of the ADT, the Discovery Trail?
Yeah, so that's actually the majority of this part of it. So it'll feel good to actually be on like the American Discovery Trail and also give our horses a break from the road a little bit and our nerves too. So
yeah, I mean, that's what I was wondering, how that whole thing, y'all did city and major highway and all that kind of stuff. And so to actually be on a trail and not just the road, it's got to feel good.
Yeah, it definitely feels good to be headed off of that. I mean, logistically though, like we're kind of thinking like, well, we might not really need a support truck driver for like the canal part, like if we're on the trail. But figuring out things in the evening, like we don't have any places set up to stay yet for this week starting tomorrow. So we're just kind of going to play it by ear and just keep rolling, but we're excited to be back on trail again. So it's kind of the compromise because previously we've been logistically planning of like whoever says can host us for the night, like we aim for them. Yeah. But this is kind of nice. Like we don't have to aim for anyone and we can be on the trail for as long as possible. So it's kind of a trade. We'll just see how it all works out.
But I don't know. I would think for you guys, especially having, been able to plan your own stuff for so long, it probably feels good. Or I would think it would feel good. Hannah, what about you? You look like you're not too sure about that.
I am a little tired of the roads. I'm really excited to get off of them. These roads here are a little different already. They're a little narrower, really windy. Even on the days it's not supposed to be busy, they feel busy. It's kind of a toss-up whether we get a nice road or not. And I mean, the horses are doing great and all that, but it is really taxing. So I'm excited to get on some trail. But like Lisanne said, we trade like stability and knowing where we're going to stay when we do that. But we'll give it a shot. We're pretty flexible anyway. So, and now like we went and we spoke at Shepherdstown University, which I'm wearing their hoodie right now.
That's great.
They gave us each one. And now we have a little community. So like if we do get into a bind, like now we know people within the area that can help us out of it. So
that's great.
That's really nice. Yeah.
Well, I talked to Dana before all of that, and she had said they were so excited about y'all coming, and they were going to have, I don't know if she was able to be there, but she was going to have some people film and take some pictures and stuff too. So that's very cool.
Yeah. I've got a few things for you to upload to a Dropbox or Drive or whatever. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to catch up with you for the podcast because before last time we talked, I think y'all were still at Paradise, no Wi-Fi, and it was, phone call and no video or whatever. So it's really, really great to catch up. So I'm so glad. How did things go with Hannah while Lisanne was gone? How did that go for you? Did you have a ton of work to do, or did you have a little bit of help?
Oh man, it was kind of bad timing. I got a cold and I had to teach the clinic, and like that was kind of hard, but I mean, I've taught a clinic with the flu before and this wasn't as bad, but it was just kind of hard because like the last thing I wanted to be doing is everything and
Oh,
but I mean, I'm feeling way better now, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all good. I survived that little bit. We can put that part behind. And the clinic went awesome. I mean, the people were really great, and Patricia's has been amazing. So it's been a really good connection. I mean, some of the people that audited, were support drivers and rode with us, and so it was really a great way to like build like really good relationships with people in the area. So I mean, it totally was worth it. And it's really nice to have Lisanne feeling a lot better. So
Yeah.
I feel like we can function more as a team. I mean, not that it wasn't really causing many issues before, but
I was a lot grumpier.
but it's just more enjoyable now.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I can't imagine when you're in that kind of pain, you just can't, having fun is not part of the bargain, So it's gotta feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. So my cold seemed like nothing compared to what I'm sure Lisanne was going through.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, so without like a support driver still, I mean, I kind of in my head had that envisioned as that was going to be, y'all weren't going to have to worry about a thing all this way.
Yeah,
But
you and me both.
oh,
Two of us, actually after this phone call, like we're actually crazy enough back at Patricia's right now. Like we've ridden, quite a ways away, but yeah, our trailer is like out here in the indoor arena right now getting wrapped with all of our BLK sponsorships. So yeah, but I was planning, Hannah's going to do some reorganizing of things, and then I'm going to do more logistical planning. And part of that is calling our support, like our hopefully permanent support truck driver today. So hopefully that happens sooner versus later.
so, but if she
make it
can't
out.
come for a while, can you just park the trailer for a bit and y'all ride a couple of days without it? Or do you have to have somebody follow you every day?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're going to play with a little bit on the C&O canal right now is maybe trying to like not have a support person with us. Like we'll need someone with us tomorrow to get us like the first 4 miles back into town and then onto the trail. But beyond that, like if we can stick to the trail, like we can mostly do it alone. And then essentially like my backup plan is if like no one can like give me a ride at the end of the night back to the truck and trailer, like I'll just call an Uber or something.
Yeah.
Uber, and then I can pull our truck and keep leapfrogging it forward.
Uh-huh.
So we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. Like,
do they have Uber in West Virginia? I hate to ask because we don't even have it in South Carolina.
yeah, so we'll actually be on the Maryland side of things. So
there you go.
We'll see, but we also have a good network, like I said, like now from Shepherdstown. So we're at least good for tomorrow night, I feel like, but we'll see what Thursday night and Friday night look like.
Well, I feel bad now that I dissed South Carolina on the whole Uber thing. So no worries, any South Carolina people that are listening. We do have Uber some places. We just don't have it where I live. So
yeah, I don't know really. Yeah, Uber is tough where I come back home too. Like you have to get on Facebook and call like the 2 Uber drivers, be like, hey, turn your side of the app on so I can pay you to get a ride.
Yes. So you probably know them both personally, I guess.
I do. Yeah, I know both of them very well.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, I have to ask too, Lisa told me that y'all had your first snow experience. Was it, how bad was it?
Oh, we didn't get any snow.
What?
I mean, there was frost this morning, but that was it.
Okay.
We had a really big rainstorm, and I mean that laid us up for an extra day, and there was some strong winds in it, and it was kind of spooky. Like we were staying at a campground. It was our first campground,
and they were gonna put us in this one campsite, and then we told them like how big our truck and trailer were, and they were like, oh, like move over to this other campsite. So we had our horses highlined to those trees there, but the original campsite that they were gonna put us in, there was a tree that came down and like broke the picnic table. And so I was like, well, I'm really happy we weren't in that campsite. Like, but riding out the next day, it kind of took me to back home. Like there were trees down all over the trail to ride out of there. And so I was like picking them up and moving them, and like we had to move the horses around, and like it really took me to back home, which I don't know. I'm excited to get out west, and we're saying that still out east, very far east.
Yes. I'm sure it feels that way because I kept looking at the map, the ADT map, and seeing kind of where y'all are in West Virginia. And I was picturing you a little bit further in, but and I'm trying to figure out, I can't wait to come and meet up with you guys. So I don't know at what point that will happen, but let's make it on a part of the trail that's not scary and doesn't have like railroad tracks where trains are going to come flying by, because I want to hear that story. How did you know the train was coming and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, that actually wasn't the scariest part of the day.
Yeah, that was an eventful day. That day is gonna take a whole chapter.
Uh-oh.
That was a rough day.
Yeah,
Everything went good though.
we all survived, really. Yeah, so that day, like we were trying to get back onto the CNO canal, and like there's just a part, like, so a lot of the train runs parallel to the CNO, and we were just trying to get there. And so like the road to get to the access point, it had the tracks coming right next to us, and I was like, all right, like my horse is probably not gonna like this, but he should be okay. So I kept like easing him up, and like, of course they have to honk through every intersection, which he was fine with. He was like, they were all fine with like the horns blaring. But what got him is like those rail cars, each one makes a different noise on the tracks. And it's like the clank, 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 which is completely different than like the big semi trucks passing. Yeah. And yeah, it all happened so fast. Like you can tell from the video, like, I don't know, like I think Abilene may have spooked first, and then Chili just like my horse lost his bravery. But Hannah's horse Rosette in back was carrying.
Well, Abilene then like
she got away
and bolted into my group. So I had Bagheera and Cody, and Cody like is almost as big as Bagheera, and he like pushes Bagheera, and they both like move as one, and Abilene passes us, and thankfully Rosette like saves the day and just holds everybody back in the caboose. And like Rosette she was like looking around like a little concerned, but she just stayed there. And Abilene, like no one got off to grab Abilene initially. Like Abilene just stayed there behind Rosette, like, okay, if Rosette can stand here, like I can stand here too. And then everybody was fine, but it was like that initial like chain reaction.
Yeah.
That kind of had everybody, kind of spooked there for a moment. But yeah, it ended up being all right. It was just a brief moment of like, hang on. And then everybody stopped.
But yeah. I mean, yeah, it was crazy. Like, we've had a few people like coming in and riding with us, and like, we don't really know their experience level when they step on. And like, I really admire like our people who volunteer to ride with us, because they're really gutsy. Like they're getting on horses they don't know. Like we can say whatever about horses, but there's a lot of people that say a lot of things about horses that aren't true.
Right.
And so like for them to get on and then like dive into these really intense situations and like be along for the ride. I mean, like I gotta give kudos to Shirley that day.
Yeah, Rosette had a rider she didn't know on her, and then she really took care of the group. So
that's fantastic. Well, I'm claiming Rosette then when I come and ride with you.
Yeah, I will say Finn, while everything was blowing up around him, like he didn't have a rider on him that day, and he just had his head in the grass eating. Like it was just another Tuesday for him. Like,
yeah,
he just didn't care. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have been on you, like we maybe would have been fine. But yeah, it was a whole fiasco. But that wasn't the scariest part of the day. So,
yeah, no, that was nothing. I would do that 10 times.
Yeah.
So tell me about this.
Yeah, so due to my neglected navigation, we didn't get off the CNO when we were supposed to like, because where we were staying that night, we had to cross the Potomac River. And so like no part of the CNO canal takes you across the Potomac River. And so we had to like get up on a big highway to go across the river. But I didn't realize, like, on my map, I was looking at it and I was like, oh, they intersect right here. And like, we can take this road. But it was much high, like the intersection happened where we went under the road by a lot, like it was way above us. And so we had to figure out a way to like get off the canal and then get onto the road and do like this big loop. But what happened is, like I said, like the train runs parallel to the C&O canal. And so we ended up like bushwhacking it down through this little gully and then came up, and we were on top of train tracks. And then we had nowhere to go. Like we couldn't get across the tracks. Like there's all like these metal, like cement barriers. And I was like thinking like, all right, I can maybe jump that. Like if it really gets real, like
we were
I can
probably
jump
on
that.
it for like a quarter mile. And like Lasanne's like, well, I don't know. One of us suggested we should trot, to get off, because we're imagining we're hearing trains coming. And I'm just like, where are we going to go? We need to get off of this.
There was no way out, like nowhere for us to go if a train showed up. And like, that was like the most like nerve wracking, like quarter mile of my life.
Yeah. Like that's been the scariest part of the whole trip so far. And like, I had the donkey and the donkey would not move. I mean, he was like slowly going along, but like even the lady that was riding Rosette went ahead of me, and I'm just like, no, I need you to push the donkey. But like, to get the horses to get onto the tracks is kind of hard initially, because mine hadn't ever rode on the tracks before. So like, to then ask her to like turn around was too much. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like we need to move, and we're just trailing behind, and Lasanne's already way up there. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up. And so that was really nerve wracking. But it turned out like we found a place, made our way
off,
to get off. And like, had we just like got on and thought about it for 1 second,
pause,
instead of been like, oh my gosh, we got to hurry up and get off of
where'd
this.
we go?
There was like an opening right where we got on.
If we would have just like shot straight across and just looked maybe at like our like 12:30, it was like right there.
And so that could have avoided that whole like heart attack for like 5 minutes that we were on the track.
So we're never doing that again.
No, that was awful.
My heart's racing just listening to y'all talk about it. I don't think I could have done that. I really don't. Oh Lord.
Yeah. Well, then the next day, like that we rode, or we camped at that campground that night, and that campground had a train track that ran right by it. And our horses were a little lively about the train track, but then they were on the high lines right next to that train for like 2 days. And so riding out of there, the train was above us, like came up above us. And they just didn't care at that point. Like they were pretty over it. But oh my gosh, yeah, that day. And it was our first day into West Virginia. And there were these huge, massive bridges with the highways going by, and like they were pretty tight and whatnot. And it was one of the more epic days we've had.
Oh my gosh, there was this massive bridge that I didn't feel quite comfortable. Like I didn't think I could get Cody to trot. Like there wasn't enough room for us to really like walk it. We had to trot. And I thought at the time that Cody would run better if I was on the ground. And Bagheera is still sometimes funny about bridges. So like with my two being kind of funny about him, I was like, oh, I should just run across, I can get him to go faster. Well, my goodness, this was one of those bridges that was not only super long, but it also had like brackets through
like
the whole
metal
thing.
Gate brackets.
Like the whole thing. God. Normally you like get on a bridge and there's one bracket, but I guess because it was so long, there was brackets throughout. And like, oh my gosh, I don't know like how I was able to run across that thing, because just when I get my momentum going, the donkey slams on his brakes at the bracket and it's like, no. And even Bagheera is kind of like, oh, do I want to step on this? And then I have to convince them, okay, we can keep going. And then they go. And then I got to build up my momentum again and like have these guys in tow behind me. And like, it was the longest bridge in my life. Oh my gosh. Like even the tunnel in DC was like easier than this one. I was like, and this was like after all the train stuff. And then there's that. And then Bagheera has been kind of funny about semis sometimes passing. And like, there was tons of semis on that road, and he was getting like really frisky that day. And cause I think it was, were we staying at the campground after that
night? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I don't know if it was the weather or something, like they knew something was changing.
Yeah, that big storm came
like they were frisky that day, or at least Bagheera felt it. Like he was a little ornery, and it was just I wasn't really 100% comfortable riding him through some of the situations that day. And yeah, it was really intense. Very
They're gonna
intense
be
for
fine
sure.
with after all that, they're gonna be fine with anything you throw at them, I would imagine.
Yeah. And then later that day, I took another wrong turn. I was taking us to the wrong address. And so
Oh,
like,
that's right. Oh my gosh.
yeah, like our day kept going, like the day, like the most epic day ever.
That's why this day is gonna have its own chapter.
It just kept going. And like my hiccup cost us an extra 3 miles that day. And so like then we finally got on like this old back road thing next to the river that's like closed off, and we're riding it in the dark. And like
Yeah, this was my first time
Oh.
riding in the dark. I'd never like pitch dark too, because it
It
was
was.
so like tree covered, like you really couldn't see. But at this point, like after everything that had happened, I was like, okay,
There's nothing.
I trust you guys. But like, you know, the next few days later when we're riding out of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad we were riding this in the dark, because when you look down, you see how far, like there's just like, it's a really narrow, I mean, probably not as narrow as
It's
out
like
west.
a 30-foot. So like you have like 20 feet up, and then there's like a train track above you where the trains like can roll pretty much like over top of you. And then like you're on this tiny, narrow little service road or whatever. It's just like a 2-track.
And narrow for like someone with like 3 horses and 2 horses. Like we're not
Yeah.
even one by one. We're as
Right.
a group.
And then it's probably like in some areas, like a 30 to 50-foot drop straight down to the river, like the Potomac River's right there. And so like, yeah, I mean, what I kept telling Hannah and Shirley is I was like, okay, horses don't want to kill themselves either. Like they can see a lot better in the dark than us. Like we just have to trust them and just go with it. Like,
Yeah, but the next day we're walking the horses to like exercise their legs after they've been highline. And Lisanne's like, yeah, don't get too close to the bank. Like sometimes they do like mudslides and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't have that picture when we were in the dark.
Really?
And like it wasn't even like it was a straight shot. Like there was like little concrete like streams and like all these big puddles. And so like the horses were like kind of going through like their own obstacle course on this like narrow cliff edge. And we were
Yeah,
doing
so-
it pitch dark.
I'm not
And that was
riding with y'all
honestly
after
less
all.
scary than in the daylight when we could see it all.
That's
it was a big day
nightmare.
for us that day.
Yeah.
I am
Very-
not coming after all. Forget it. Y'all are on your own.
We've ridden a lot of days since then, and they haven't been that eventful. Like,
Okay, good.
yeah. Yeah.
So how are the dogs handling everything? Are they just kind of along behind you doing whatever?
I mean, they're really happy when like that's another reason we want to get in on the CNO canal,
Yeah,
because like
yeah.
they were actually able to be with us.
Good.
But like, I mean, whenever they have to be in like a new vehicle or strange vehicle, like they're getting really good about us like staying on the horses and sending them in to whatever vehicle we tell them to get into. But
Oh, that's
like
good.
my Malinois especially, she's like antsy and she's like, okay, like I have this energy, and like the point of us bringing your dogs was to ride with them. So
Right.
you know, I'm kind
right.
of also really wanting to get her on the trail with us. And I know Caillou, he like whines the whole time.
Yeah,
or most
he-
of the time.
He talks whoever's driving the support vehicle their ear off and just whines and cries. And it's just like, my mom's up there. I need to get to her. And then like
Yeah.
they're always so surprised because it's me that has to drive back to go get our truck and trailer at like the beginning. And like I'm in the car with my dog, and they're like, oh my gosh, he's so much quieter with you in here.
Yeah.
He's very attached to mom.
And if
so.
he's not whining, he's like sticking his head out. And like we can look back and just watch him like he's mentally with us, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That is
Yeah.
well, I'm so glad y'all are about to be with trails and not all the rest of the roads and
Yeah,
everything.
we are too.
So,
Yeah, you're not the only one, I promise.
definitely. So you've had some meet and greets and stuff too, right? Did college students come, or community people, or how does all that work?
Yeah, the last one that we just did was on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Monday. The days are all running together.
I'm sure.
And it went really well. We had some college students come in, but then, you know, I yammered on for a lot longer than they probably had a break for, and a lot of them had to go to class. And then there was quite a few community members there. I mean, it was a pretty good turnout, and it was really enjoyable. And we had a lot of people ask a lot of different questions and seem really interested in everything that was going on. I personally think like my favorite part of that day is like one of the community members that had come to watch us talk invited us to lunch afterwards. And she was literally like 2 blocks away from where we were speaking. And we just rode down there and we turned our horses loose in her yard. But she was living in this old mill house. Like her and her husband had renovated it. It was built in 1738. This mill house was, and it has the largest iron wheel. It's 40 feet in diameter. And it's the largest in the world, that's top driven. And it was just huge. And we got this awesome photo in front of it. So it was just so cool. It was just such a cool space and cool experience. And like, she made us lunch, and that was really, really a cool experience, part of that day of speaking. And I also think that we may have gotten some burros inspired to be adopted that day too. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Have you started hearing about adoptions with any of the Mustangs or burros or anything? You're starting to write them. Are you keeping track of numbers? Or is that silly to try
I mean, it's hard to keep track, but Thad actually was talking to someone who the husband of one of the places we stayed at has finally agreed to let his wife get a donkey. So for her birthday, he's going to tell her that she can adopt a burro. So
she's getting a burro ticket. Like,
wow,
good for one burro from her husband.
Which is so funny. Well, it was funny because, I think it's going to be a surprise, right?
Yeah, but her birthday's in like 7 days, so you'll have released this like after. Yeah, cool. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, but it was funny because like she couldn't even convince her husband to come out and meet the burro because he knew what that would entail. Right. So it was funny that he was like, kind of being like, oh no, I don't even want to see it, and like, is like contacting Lisanne, like how do I get a burro, so it's kind of funny, and it's really cool and exciting.
That is so cool. And I have to say, y'all are meeting some of the best people. I mean, it's the lady with lunch and the people you're staying with. And that, I think you said before, Lisanne, it always seems to be when you don't plan it out that something just happens and there you are. And so that's very, very cool. Are you still doing journals and any artwork at all, or not yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've been journaling every day. Last night I actually started writing an article for like the EQ magazine, based on like my journals, and I missed like a day or two, like when we first landed in Delaware, and I'm really upset with myself because I was like, oh my gosh, it seems like so crucial to have my thoughts down. And like last night while I was journaling, I was like, okay, like I can't not journal anymore. Like it has to be every single day. And then Hannah here has taken on a really big project this month.
What is that?
So I'm doing National Writing Month, or I think
National Novel Writing Month.
Okay, see, I don't even know. Yeah. So essentially, like you write 50,000 words in 30 days towards a novel or book or whatever. I've done it in the past. It's been a few years. It's been a year since I've really worked on the book that I'm working on. But I've managed to do 5,000 words in the last 24 hours towards my word count, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Wow,
she hasn't slept a lot.
No. I'm looking forward to sleeping tonight. I've already got my word count for today, so I can rest easy tonight until tomorrow. Then I'll have to worry about somehow making my word count, but
she'll probably be back there like texting on her horse notes. Outlining what she has to write down tomorrow night.
Right. Now, are these characters anybody we will recognize, or are they random people that?
No, this is actually a book that was inspired by one of my good friends, Kelly Wilson of New Zealand. She's an amazing, like, best-selling author, wild horse advocate. She's an amazing photographer. She invited me a few years ago. It's crazy to think it was a few years ago. It's been so long. She invited me to study wild brumbies in Australia with her.
Oh, man.
And so we actually plan to hopefully co-write this book together. And it's kind of inspired by kind of the story that was inspired by like true events that happened, and kind of a combination of like some creative like touches and things like that. So I'm really excited about it. And
it's called The Last Brumby.
The Last Desert Brumby.
The Last Desert.
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always write a lot of books and it takes a little while to actually publish them. This one won't be published probably for a while, but but I'm really excited to, kind of work towards that goal. I have so many books that I want to write and
Mhm.
that I've started and kind of just sat on for a while, that I'm really one really big like post Mustang Discovery Ride goal is to actually kind of turn some of my attention and focus into books and writing. So it's kind of neat to actually be riding on the trail. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
excited about this month and doing this kind of self-challenge.
Well, actually, you happen to know a really good artist who's sitting close by, so maybe you could get her to illustrate something for you, or at least
Yeah,
book
that'd be
cover.
cool.
Book cover.
Yeah. We also have a really good friend that does like a lot of like more computer illustrated based stuff, and like her work is absolutely
Okay.
amazing. She actually helped us like define like our logo a little bit.
Okay.
And yeah, she does amazing work. There's rumor that we have a children's book deal on the table, and for that, like that's where like our horses would become characters and
Yeah.
dogs would become characters in that. And with that, we were kind of thinking like maybe approaching her about illustrating that. Like
Oh,
we have
that's
some
awesome.
ideas. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like painting, but
I admire Lisanne for being able to journal right now. For me, like the story is so untold. I have a hard time like outside of like stating the obvious. Like I kind of write down the miles we did and sometimes the people and
Mhm.
places, but like outside of that, like I really struggle to like write down all the happenings. But yeah, I mean, I look forward to, afterward being able to kind of shape the story once it's finished.
Yeah.
I
And
really just take
yeah.
notes, like bullet points of like events, and like it sparks the memory
I
of
don't know.
what happened that day.
You read one of your journal entries though
Oh
from
yeah.
from August, and I was like really impressed. I was like, oh, wow, I'm glad one of us is a good journaler.
Well, it's good to do at least, like you said, the bullet points and the notes and things, because I just rewatched our first Zoom call from months ago. And I mean, it seems like 2 years now when you look back and think, and y'all were out west and we were talking. I mean, if I would forget things if we didn't have things like that to look back on. So the notes will definitely come in handy, I'm sure.
Definitely, definitely. I was like thinking about like yesterday when I was just writing that short article. It was only like 800 words. That's all I accomplished yesterday. I wasn't the thousands of words Hannah is doing over here, but that one took me a minute. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like even in like this short amount, like there's still so much more to be told. And then I was like, I don't know how you fit an entire year of like one day. Like, I mean, we spent like 5 or 10 minutes just talking about one day. We've had some other like really cool days too. Like one gal had a sauna and that was fun and exciting. And like we keep moving to like different places. And like one guy like really loved his cows and he was worried about his heifers, like in our horses, and like it was fine. But yeah, I mean, it's just like the little, well, even yesterday we were doing like the most remedial stuff because we took the day off and like today to have our trailer wrapped. And like, so we went and did laundry. It was the coolest laundromat ever. Like you started the machines from an app on your phone, and like the owner was there and she was so excited about what we were doing that she like wanted to take photos with us. And
Oh,
I was just
wow.
like, even like the most mundane things have turned into like really cool experiences for us on
Oh,
this trip.
wow.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and we say all the time, this is the trip of a lifetime and all that kind of stuff that just sounds like things you say. But for you guys, I'm just so excited for you, because to live in the moment and now to kind of relax a little bit and be able to live in the moment after all the hoopla of getting started. Um, I'm hoping you're enjoying it. I'm sure you are. So that's
Yeah, I
exciting.
feel like we're like we still don't know a whole lot, but like we're settling into like kind of routines, and like things are getting a little bit smoother every day, even with like whatever presents itself. Like we generally can resolve that pretty quickly and agree on it pretty well. Like Hannah and I get along really well with everything. And so yeah, we're doing pretty good. Like more than a month in now, which is crazy to think about.
It
Yeah.
is crazy, but you're impressing the heck out of me and everybody else too. So good job. Kudos to both of you. So I know you got a lot to do. I won't keep you any longer, but I'm so glad to have a chance to catch up with you and to see how things are in West Virginia. And hopefully I'll catch up with you in person before you get out. But what's the next step after West Virginia? Do you know yet? Are you taking a winter break? Or are you going to kind of keep, is that
We
undetermined?
want to, I mean, like Hannah and I's plan is to like ride as much as we can in winter. Like our biggest limitation will honestly be sunlight, like daylight hours.
Yeah.
We won't really be able to make a lot of miles. Just given that, and then we'll just be flexible with weather, but like as much as we can, like we want to get moving. Hannah and I were talking like at the end of that week that we were here at Patricia's, like after I got my teeth fixed and like she had done her clinic and stuff, like we were both like really anxious and like full of anxiety to like keep moving.
And honestly, the
And-
horses were too. Like they
Yeah.
were so eager to get going. They were like, this place has been great, but like let's hit the road, and
Yeah.
they really rose to that really well, because you kind of always wonder like, oh man, we're at a really nice place. Like, are they gonna want to leave this? And like they catch really well.
Yeah, they come right up like eager at the gate, like, all right, like where are we off to next? Like it's kind of cool, like they're pretty into it too.
That's awesome.
Cheleno maybe a little too much, like he hates,
he could tone down a little bit.
gosh, he hates like pulling over and just waiting for cars to go by. He's like, no, like we need to keep
going.
moving. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're okay.
Meanwhile, everybody else is like, oh, we get to catch your breath.
So do you know mileage? Have you been keeping track of mileage?
Yeah, we're right at about 250 miles right now.
That's cool. Very
5% of the way.
yeah, yeah. Well, they said, what is it? You told me at 1,000 miles, you get to call yourself a long rider, right?
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
okay, cool.
We're a quarter way to that. That's kinda
Yeah,
cool.
that's exciting. That makes
Yeah.
us feel better about our lives.
Right. So
Little by
on
little.
that note, be proud, be very proud.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we will catch up with you again very soon, but thank you for chatting with us for a few minutes today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by JA Media Productions and the Eccles Film and Arts Fest. Special thanks to our sponsors, the Mustang Heritage Foundation, BLK Water, and España Silk.